The Ottawa Charge win 2-1 in overtime against the Montreal Victoire. In Winnipeg, another takeover tour. Classic, another takeover tour win for Ottawa. Had a few of those this season. First off, I want to address the rumors. I don't want to talk on them too much, but there's been a lot of rumors swirling around about expansion. The one I've heard a bunch of things. I've heard Detroit's definitely getting a team. Definitely not getting a team. Denver's definitely getting a team. Definitely not getting a team. I've heard a whole bunch. Oh, it's definitely going to be 2. It's definitely going to be 4. It's definitely going to be 2 American cities, not Canadian. Whatever. I don't know. I'm not part of those conversations. But let me just say this. If this game hasn't put Winnipeg on the map, I don't know what will. An amazing attendance at this game. And I think the Winnipeg faithful have proven that they are a city that should be very seriously considered for a team. Very seriously. And I am somebody who's of the belief that, look, you cannot expand too much too quickly. I'm already like, another expansion again is going to be a tough pill to swallow. I'm hopeful that because there's going to be 8 teams instead of 6, you can maybe limit the damage. Maybe instead of losing like 4 players, you'll only lose 2 or 3. 3 players on 8 teams. That's a lot. That's your whole roster right there. That's your whole roster. So I think that, as expansion goes, it'll be easier for the existing teams because there will be less players available, to be selected. Like, oh, well, only if, in the far-flung future, only 1 player per team will get selected. We're clearly not there yet. But from what I've heard, it seems like 12 is going to be where they cap out for a little while. That they're going to expand to 12, which I think is a good number. And then they're going to stay at 12 for a while, which I agree with. And if this doesn't have you really seriously considering Winnipeg to be one of those 12, I don't know. The crowd was great. This was a fun one. This was a fun one for the crowd. And you could feel the excitement in every shot. And like I said in my previous video, it did feel like, they were cheering for whoever was doing well. There were lots of jerseys, though. There were lots of, specific supporters. After the OT goal, you saw Charge fans in the stands, doing the hokey pokey, getting a little celebration in. You saw Victoire fans. They were, bummed. They were like, how I am after a disappointing Charge loss. Which is to say, in Winnipeg, battle lines are being drawn. There's already commitment to fandom and to teams. I saw a girl in a Frost jersey on the broadcast, for crying out loud. This league has legs. Could you imagine if there was a Winnipeg team? Oh my goodness. When you've already got this level of enthusiasm, this level of dedication to the league and to these teams in a city that doesn't have a team, that's amazing. It's wonderful. And it's so encouraging to see how it's been getting better and better, I feel, in terms of the staying power. So all this to say, I really hope Winnipeg gets a team. It's tough. Obviously, when I think of the Canadian cities, Halifax has done more than enough. Quebec City, oh my goodness, Quebec City really does deserve a team. But then it's like, well then those are the 2. But I think Winnipeg also deserves a team. And then there's Edmonton, and then there's Calgary, and there's a lot of Canadian cities. And I also think that you can't just overload a bunch of Canadian cities. You obviously need American cities, and there are American cities like Denver that are, very deserving of a team. Chicago, that's one that's been floating around, that Chicago might be the one that'll get a team. But there are lots of cities lots of cities that deserve a PWHL team. But the good news is that there are lots of cities that deserve a PWHL team because they keep showing interest. I'm glad this isn't an easy decision. Because if we were like, oh, well, these are the only 2 cities that make any sense, like everybody else doesn't care, that is bad. The long-term health of this league, it's got a strong pulse. Really strong pulse. Because even after the 12, there's going to be another 12 cities clamoring for a team. They'll be jumping at the bid, saying, hey, when you expand again, we're here. But let's talk about the game, shall we? Good game. Look, I was complaining in my last video. I'll admit it. I was a little bit bummed. A little bit ill-miffed on how some of the hockey was. I thought the Charge were getting consistently outplayed. Even in the game they won against Vancouver, I thought that they weren't really the better team ever. New York, Vancouver, Minnesota. Did not think we were the better team. This game, I do think the better team won this game. I don't think we were the better team by a significant margin, and I think that that's actually a good thing. Montreal and Ottawa just had a good old-fashioned battle. Good game of hockey. Both teams played well. Shots were relatively similar, though they did ultimately favor us by about 7. But if you look at how the shots went, like the first period was like 10-6. And then after that, they were pretty even throughout the rest of the game. So strong showing in the first period, a very strong showing. And then we did, we had a few more shots to them in the second. The second I thought was, ironically enough, the quietest period in terms of shots, even though that's when the 2 regulation goals were scored. I thought that's when the teams were making, even more defensive plays than, I otherwise would have thought that they were really, clamping down. There were also, on both ends, elite goaltending. René Desbiens is the only reason why this game wasn't a blowout regulation win. And yes, we will talk about it late in the game. Opportunity for a jailbreak. After a whole bunch of controversy that we'll talk about. Jenner and Clark 2-on-0. 2-on-0, you have to score. And I saw a lot of that, you have to score. And I get it, you do. But this was a good shot that was taken. A high-danger shot that was taken. Desbiens just made a good save. Sometimes you have a golden opportunity to score, and you just get beat by the goalie. I don't think that one's on Clark or Jenner. I don't think that we can write that off and say, team's doing terrible. Team can't score. The team can score. Sometimes the goaltender is hot. Both goaltenders were hot tonight. Both goaltenders were real hot tonight and played exceptionally good games. And Desbiens made a bunch of 9-bell saves where it easily could have been a goal. Even before Gabby Hughes scores the first goal of the game, she had another opportunity, and it could have easily been a goal. There were a lot of those. There were a few jailbreak opportunities. Like we talk about the Clark and Jenner one. There were a few. Desbiens was up to task this game. And Phillips was up to task this game. Let in 1, and it was a rocket. It was a rocket. Goslin gets it. And I think it was tipped in by Goslin. But in any case, it's a rocket. There's nothing you can do right off the face-off. There's a clean win off the face-off. Bang. Next thing you know, it's in the back of your net. That's the only mistake she makes all game. That's the only mistake she makes all game. She does not let another goal in. She doesn't let a single puck past her, excluding that beauty. All the goals were beauties. I mean, the first... Okay, so yeah, we talked about the first pretty even. Second period, I thought Ottawa did do a good job of generating that offense. Like I said, Gabby Hughes had a really good game for Gabby Hughes. A great game for Gabby Hughes. I think I'd be confident in calling it her best game of the season so far. I just felt her presence was really made known tonight. Like, I thought it was really made known that, like, she is here. Even if she, isn't going to light up the stat sheet like a Christmas tree. She's going to get the key goal. Is Ottawa Montreal were not lighting the stat sheet up like a Christmas tree. That's not how these games work. But she stayed consistent. She kept generating momentum, generating offense. Good work pays off. She placed herself exactly where you want to be. Peyton Hemp makes a great play, an even better pass. It's crisp, it's beautiful, it's right to Gabby Hughes. There is nothing anyone can do about this one. She's got a wide open net, and she's right there. She's not missing this one. She scores this 100% of the time. The Charge score 1-0. We're on the board first. Like I said, not too long later in the period. Face-off win for Montreal in Ottawa's end. A rocket, and it goes in, and we end the second tied at 1 apiece in a game that's feeling pretty even, and I was kind of confident. One thing the announcers did mention is that our worst period tends to be our first, our best tends to be our third, and beyond. I'm going to say and beyond, because we've had a lot of games in overtime. We've only lost in overtime or shootout once all season, and it's not like we've only gone 3 or 4 times. We are a very, very consistently deadly team if it goes beyond the third period, as this very game proves. But in any case, I went into the third like, yeah, we can at least get a point of this. We're playing well. We're doing good. Like, the game against Vancouver, when regulation ended tied, I was like, oh my goodness, we got a point. Yes, thank you. Oh, we got away with it. This one, I was like, we deserve at least a point. Frankly, we deserve at least 2. We were playing really good, and we kept pace with them. And that's the other thing that I do think we need to mention before I talk about my favorite player on the team. But we need to talk about the reffing. It's been bad. It was egregious, this game. I love this league. I don't want to be framed as the guy who's always complaining about the refs. And let me make something perfectly clear. If you've never reffed before, it isn't for the faint of heart. First off, no one's cheering for you. Look, I'm a Charge fan, okay? Even when the Charge aren't playing well, even when the Charge players are doing things that I personally wouldn't, bad penalties, bad giveaways, I still root for them. I still want them to succeed. If a Charge player is constantly turning the puck over, taking bad penalties, bad shift changes, or bad line, I should call it a line change, making bad line changes, skating half-heartedly, I'll be upset, but I will be rooting ultimately for their success. So long as they're on the team, I'll be like, I hope that they stop doing that so that they can help the team. I hope that instead of turning the puck over, they don't turn the puck over. I hope their line changes are good. I hope that they score goals. I hope that they play smart, good, clean hockey. And when they don't, I'm like, ugh, I wish you would. I wish you nothing but success. The refs are in such a unique position where no one is rooting for you. The home fans, the away fans, the takeover tour fans, you are all alone. And you only go based off of what you see. And your head's there, and a tripping happens over here, you might not see it. It happens. Like, for us, we are watching the game on television where we get to see everything going on in the play because it's all like zoomed out, and you like sometimes you're seeing like the center line is on one part of the screen, and like you're seeing just a bit before the opponent's like net. There's a it's different watching it on TV. If you've ever been to a game, even it's different. If you've ever sat kind of close to the ice. If you've ever played any form of hockey, any sport really, it's different in the game versus watching it, in the stadium versus watching it on TV. So what I see and what they see, it's different. I'm gonna see more, and then after the play's done, I'm gonna get to see replay after replay after replay to remind me just how much they made a bad call or they missed a call. So I love it, PWHL refs. You have an unforgiving job. You have a thankless job. And there's a fine line between being upset at the refs and, like, being abusive, being a bully, crossing a line. But also, this is your job, right? You referee professional women's hockey league games. A game like this, of this importance, where it could decide the fate of the playoffs, not just who makes it, but also, like, the positioning. Minnesota, Montreal, and Boston are in a dogfight for first. Toronto, New York, and Ottawa in a dogfight for the last playoff spot. This game matters. It could affect so much for the league moving forward this season. And it's a takeover tour game. A big I think the biggest takeover tour game this season. And they weren't on the ball. So much just being let go. At times I was scratching my head, like, what even is a penalty? Can we talk about the Rebecca Leslie situation? Let's talk about the Rebecca Leslie situation. The first Rebecca Leslie situation. That's penalty. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's a little late, a little behind. Now, from my side, I think she was already extended or partially extended before, the contact is initiated. Like, I don't think that this is one, as some people have tried to frame it, one of those nasty, hit her right on the numbers, she wasn't looking. I do think it's still a boarding penalty. And I do think that it probably would have been smart to call a 5-minute major and then go review it. That's something we see a lot. But the hand didn't go up. Did it? Kind of felt like they only called the penalty as a result of what happened afterwards. After a whole game of letting everything go. There were a few penalties, sure, but there were a lot more missed penalties. Lots of blatant stick infractions. Like tripping. They're just completely unnoticed. And completely evident, like for anyone to see. Like, I'm talking textbook examples. Now, Montreal is generous. They nullify this power play by taking a slashing call of their own. And again, it's a penalty. It is. I actually was sitting there like, that felt soft compared to how much they've let the teams get away with. I don't want to use the word, but it felt a little bit like game management. Don't you think? Don't you think it felt a little bit like game management? And I'm not a fan. But what can you do? What can you do? The refs are going to miss calls. The refs are going to make bad calls. I think this is a discussion that is going to happen in the offseason, hopefully before the playoffs. I think it negatively affected both teams. If you're sitting here whining that Rebecca Leslie should have gotten 5 in a game for that one, no. Okay? Especially with how little was being called. If that gets 5 in a game, the uproar would have been beyond immense. Like, the same play Montreal got away with a tripping, like, earlier in the play. Like, the same play. But this is what happens when you don't call penalties. You risk injury. You risk players getting aggressive. Oh, wow, they aren't calling anything against us. I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. I'm gonna be the beacon of justice. Yeah, I'm just gonna body one of their players. Because the refs won't penalize them. They aren't gonna get in trouble. They keep breaking the rules. So I'm gonna start breaking the rules. You need to call it. But hey, late in the game, they call it. And while we don't score, this means that we go into overtime. We have a little bit of power play time left. About 30 seconds. And I thought to myself, that might be too much. So for all of you saying, Leslie, why couldn't you have scored 12 seconds earlier? Honestly, because there's a huge difference between 4-on-3 and 5-on-4. And it was almost like a 4-on-2, D'Arcangelo, after the faceoff, kind of went to change immediately. And when you give the puck to the best goal scorer in the league, and you give her open space, she will not miss. She won't. You add another Victoire player out there, another Charge player out there, maybe that clogs the lane. Maybe that blocks the shot that goes in. No shame for Anne-Renee Desbiens. This is just the hottest player in the league, scoring a great goal. And she snipes it again. Rebecca Leslie, who's tied for the league lead in goals and has sole possession of the most game-winning goals thus far this season at 4. That's nuts. How do you have 4 goals? And so this is where I need to say, I'm a Leslie truther. And she deserves. Thus far, now, there's 8 games left in the season. Who knows what happens? But based off of the current trends, I would say she deserves MVP. I know that there are other players who have more points. But think of what those words mean. Most valuable player. Frankel, I think, is in the conversation. I think this game proves that Poulin definitely still is. Because, Poulin being there might have made a difference. But when I think valuable, I think, who's a player your team couldn't live without? So, as much as Frost fans have a bunch of candidates, I think that works to their detriment. Because if there's Kendall Coyne Schofield can't play, you've got Kelly Panic. If Kelly Panic can't play, then you've got Taylor Heise. If Taylor Heise can't play, well, then you've got, as much as I hate to admit it, Britta Krul. And if Britta Krul can't play, well, I'm sure by then Kendall Coyne Schofield's back. We just played them without Schofield, and we got beat 5-0. You can take any one of them out of the equation, and they're still a threat. They're still a deadly force. They are a menace. Take Rebecca Leslie off the Ottawa Charge. I don't think we are nearly as good. Do we have any wins? Any? And while you can say, well, look, Brianne Jenner and her both have 19, it's because they assist each other a lot. A lot of Rebecca Leslie goals. Even this goal, secondary assist, Brianne Jenner, she's having a season too. But when you look at that, it's like, okay, well, if you take Rebecca Leslie out of the equation, then that probably halves Brianne Jenner's points. It cuts it in half because she is involved with so many of the goals and assists that Brianne Jenner gets. And so then you say, well, who has been clutch? Rebecca Leslie, late game heroics, overtime heroics, 4 game-winning goals, tied for the league lead in goals. I think we seriously need to have a conversation. I think she should be the front runner thus far for the MVP. Name one player, again, maybe Aaron Frankel. Is there any other player who is as important to their team? Because seriously, what would Ottawa be like without Rebecca Leslie? We'd be awful. We'd be terrible. We wouldn't score. What a bounce back game. Lots more season to go. But we're right back in the thick of it. Right back in the playoff race. Toronto faces Boston. We need to hope for a Boston win. Because if Boston wins, we can get right back to being in the playoffs. Thrilling game. Really fun. Looking forward to the last 8 games of the season. And as always, go, Ottawa, go.